SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Hello friends, today we are going to see what kind of things and what all kind of factors or classifications we have in non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is the world beyond words. What is communication? When we think about it, it's just about a listener and a speaker. But apart from that, communication along with the word or along with its twin, information is one of the most hyped word in today's contemporary culture. A kind of multitude of expressions, happenings, actions, meanings are being given to communication. A group or a conference, meetings or mela or even a position can be claimed as communication process. Radio, television, news are all communication medias. A speaker or a news reporter, everybody or those kind of professionals or even camera crew members can be concluded as communication professionals. And mobile phone, email, all can be all those things comprise into communication technologies. In simpler words, communication is just a human relationship factor. And to talk about its definition, communication is the art of transmitting information, ideas, attitudes, thoughts, feelings from one person to another. I would say it's not exactly a process, but it's a very much necessity. It's a social concern, like because if a person has to lead an isolated life, it would be very hard for him. A person right from an age right from the age when life began on earth, we need somebody to communicate. The birds chirping is one of their kind of communication. The dancing of honeybees is one of their kind of way to indicate about the honey hives. There are many ways in which nature communicates, but for human beings, what they can do is speak. They are given the gift of the gap. And it is, the words are used to express those attitudes, feelings, pleasure. Every kind of emotion is being inflicted through the help of communication. Components which includes in a communication process would be sender, a receiver, and definitely they both need to communicate what? That is message. That means any message, that means it can be a thought, an idea or a feeling and words. There would be a sender, there might be some barriers or filters during the process of communication, and there would be a kind of response given by the receiver. Types of communication are verbal, non-verbal and written. Now, types of communication again to be broadly before we can broadly classify it, it would be interpersonal, intrapersonal and transpersonal. Interpersonal is with two people, under which we come across verbal, non-verbal and written. Intrapersonal is the communication within, and transpersonal is the communication with a group or a mass. It's communication. What exactly should be communication? It should be appropriately adapt message to others, beware of our communication with ourselves and others, effectively use and interpret verbal messages, and effectively use the interpret non-verbal messages, because all these aspects, if you listen properly, if you adapt the message properly, if you are able enough to communicate it and give proper verbal message, still if you are not able to use effectively non-verbal expressions, a wrong kind of interpretation would be received by the receiver. Communication other than written or spoken language can create meanings for someone. Sign language is one exception to this definition. except from sign language. Whichever language or whatever you speak can be taken into double meaning by the interpreter. They can take into consideration what they feel as you were saying. It's not necessary whatever you try to give the message, it's very properly delivered, because the receiver may be of some other expression, or rather, let's say an example, like if you speak English and if you happen to meet an Italian person who understands a bit of English, may not be necessary that your communication process goes throughout. There might be some kind of barriers during the communication, which we call as noise. Now coming to nonverbal communication. What is nonverbal communication? Messages expressed by non-linguistic means. Includes silent behavior, environment, artifacts and vocal intonation. It is a powerful mode of communication. Non-verbal is one of the most powerful mode of communication. Why? Because your whole expressions and body language is a matter when you speak, and your expressions give a dual meaning. Then the communication process may have a hindrance only because of these aspects. Characteristics, principles of non-verbal communication are: all behavior has communicative value, first of all, because we cannot communicate, or may be intentional but is often unconscious. We may not be able enough to understand, but yes, it's a true fact that whatever kind of behavior we are having, all those behaviors do have a communicative value. Although we are always sending messages through our nonverbals, these messages aren't always received. We especially pay attention to nonverbals when they contradict verbal communication. It's like we give proper expression, no doubt, but that is not perceived all the time, because whatever you say is being taken into granted. But there may be situations where you may have a contradict facial expression and you say something else. For example, if I say thank you, there I'm not giving a proper expression. If I say thank you, that shows, the gesture shows, yes, I am obliged to the help or to the work what is being done by you. But on the other hand, if I say thank you, that doesn't give a kind of message that I'm actually obliged. And at that point of time, we could understand how important it is to observe those nonverbal signals. Nonverbal communication is primarily relational. That is the second aspect. Responsiveness, that is, communicates our interest in others. Women are generally more responsive than men. Liking, positive or negative feelings about others, and then the power of touch, violence, abuse, space and silence. For example, it is just like the fatigue space and then the intimate or the personal space. When we start communicating with a person who is very new to you, may not be necessary that the very moment you find a person you start speaking. It takes some formal speech, and after that, if you are trying to be in communication with one person, you would start with hello or hi, how are you, or good morning, good afternoon, something like that. Then gradually the person would respond, and by the responsiveness stage you would come across the stage of liking, because there may be aspects of that particular person which you might admire for or which may respect for. From that, maybe positive, or maybe you are finding that person very arrogant or which is full of negative attitude. After that, you'll have a powerful love or affection or whichever kind of expressions you have towards that person. If you find in the picture, the two people, they are not angry, rather they're happy and they're trying to dance with each other. Their expression, the facial expression shows it all. They are not speaking at all, but we can understand with their expression and the body posture, they are happy and they are enjoying the company for each other. Now, if we talk about the principles of nonverbal communication, many supplements or replace verbal communication. It may supplement, and yes, it to a great extent can replace verbal communication, may regulate interactions, and often establishes relationship level meanings, like as I said, responsiveness, liking and power. reflects and expresses cultural values too. These are the principles of nonverbal communication. If we take an example, just like if you take any movie, may it be a Bollywood or a Hollywood movie, the picturization says it all. Even the person is in love. When the person is in love, you can just, if an example, if I say, the pictures, the surroundings, no doubt environment affects, and at the same time that expression says it all. They are not talking to each other, they may not be saying to each other, but yes, they both would be connected, and that is through the expression of non-verbal communication in both of them. Their body language would speak, their eyes would speak, and thereby they may regulate interaction, and gradually the relationship level grows from responsiveness, liking to the power. And yes, it has cultural values. The things, whatever you see in India may not be the same whatever you would find in US or UK or any other part of the world. The same with here even. Those people may express their gestures in a different way. That depends all about the culture. For example, Indians with due respect, they would touch the feet of their elders. Not necessary that other people would do the same to show respect. Non-verbal are especially important. Why? For identity management. In defining a relationship, example, level of intimacy. For expressing emotions we don't want to express, can't express, or don't know very feeling. These are the three special importance of non-verbal skills. First, if we talk about the identity management, your cheerfulness may arise into a level that she is a cheerful character. That is how, because you smile often, or rather you are having a cheerful mentality. How can one see that? Those abstract qualities can be expressed through your face, through your body language. About relationship, when we say that the level of intimacy is being shown, when you find somebody at home, if for example you are at home and you find somebody knocking the door, if at all is a person whom you don't like, you may respond, oh my god, he's here, how can I avoid him? And the moment he would come in, you would not interact with him in such a way that he might feel happy with you. Somewhere, if possible, if at all, if possible, you would try to avoid that person through your expressions. If he observes, it's good, and if he doesn't observe, at least your feelings have been subsided. And at the same time, if somebody is there at your home whom you like a lot, you would be happy looking at that person, and you would greet happily towards, you would bring him home happily. And you would have no expressions of anger or kind of bad feelings won't come on your face. It won't creep up soon, and you would love to talk to that person. That is expressing emotions. And at the same time, when you express emotions, it's not necessary that you may be knowing. For instance, if something happens, for example, you worked hard for your exams, but something happened because of which you were not able to score good marks, but yet it's not bad either. What do you feel? Would you be very happy? No, not exactly. And at the same time, you won't be feeling bad because you have not scored so bad marks which you would feel very bad for. You would be at situation when, what to say, you would have a blank kind of expressions. And at the same time, if you score good, you'll have a very happy expression beyond what you expected, overexcited, and you would be very joyful. At least if you're in a situation where you cannot show it out, you will at least express it in front of your friends, or at least when you are back home, you will express it, sure. These are the various feelings which you can see. If at all it was not written yet with the facial expression, you could clearly understand that the first guy is very happy, the next girl is very sad, and yes, the third person is very angry, the fourth is very surprised, fifth is sleepy, next is thoughtful, she's thinking. Another person is nothing but healthy. Next, she's sick. And if you show your tongue out a little bit and you're looking at some delicious food, that shows you're hungry. Expression of ashamed, scared, yes, definitely bored. When you compare verbal and non-verbal communication, what we can observe is, first, similarities we talk, they are both symbolic, and at the same time they are rule guided. Next, there can be intentional or unintentional as well. Both are cultural bound, because if I get to see a person whom I don't like and if I say, oh my god, he came home, if I say that, maybe I said it intentionally, or I was just speaking, I was just having a loud speak, and by chance he happened to listen to that. So in a way, expressions the same. As I said earlier also, the same guy, when he came, he was not an expected person. You may not be interested to talk that person at home. Maybe that you would give expressions unknowingly. You might give, oh, he's here, but maybe it was intentional, maybe it wasn't. So in that way, both verbal and non-verbal can be having this similarities. And when we talk about the difference, non-verbal communication is usually perceived and more believable. Verbal can be multi-channeled and non-verbal is continuous as well. For example, when I said when I say thank you with an expression, that is to be believed. I said thank you. Unless and until I am on call, may not be understood. But if at all I am looking at a person and I am saying thank you, that directly gives an impression that I don't mean what I say. So it is always communicated properly, and at the same time it is like multi-channeled, and it is continuous too. Your expressions will give a longer impact than even as your words. Non-verbal behavior is like accounts for 65% to 93% of the total meaning of communication. Whatever you say with the proper kind of or the way of expression matters a lot. Different types of non-verbal communications. First is kinesis, that is body motion. Second is haptics, touch. Next is physical appearance, artifacts, paralanguage, silence, environmental factors, proxemics and personal space.